guide right now, and we're gonna distinguish between a relationship and a function. So until now we learned that in general a function is a relationship between an input and an output. However, today we're gonna expand this definition, we're gonna add to it. So to show that we're adding to it, I'm just gonna put 3 dots here. 1, 2, 3. We're gonna add to this definition because turns out that not every relationship is in function. Sometimes we have relationships which are not functions. So what makes a relationship a function? This is what we're gonna look at. And we're gonna explore this concept through those 3 game controls. Now look closely at those 3 game controls. If you have to, you can also pause the video and think about the questions I'm gonna ask. Which of those 3 game controls can you use to play a game so that you know you will win the game? Again, which of those 3 game controls can you really use to play a game? So if you use control 1, you have 4 buttons, and we can think of those 4 buttons as 4 inputs. So let's just say this is our set of inputs. This is our set of inputs or group of inputs. And the inputs we have are A, B, C, D. And over here will be our set of outputs or group of outputs. And those outputs are run, walk, jump, fight. Now, how does a function work, or how does a relationship work? It matches inputs to outputs, right? So input A matches to run. Input B matches to walk. Input C matches to jump. And input D matches to fight. If I press a button over here in game 1, I always know what's going to happen. Now, if I look at the second game console, we have a little bit of a different situation. It's somewhat similar. We have again our inputs, and our inputs are again A, B, C, and D. However, we have one action more as output. We don't only have run and walk, we also have run, turn, walk, jump, fight. And if I press button A, 2 things actually are happening. I may end up running, or I may end up turning. And I don't know exactly which of those 2 is going to happen. I have no idea whether when I press the button, the character I represent is going to run, or whether the character is going to turn. If I press B, the character is going to walk. If I press C, the character is going to jump. And if I press D, the character is going to fight. However, if I press button A, I don't really know which action is going to happen. So if I try to play game 2, I may end up in a lot of trouble, because let's say I'm being chased by this big ugly monster and I know that I cannot fight the monster and I want to just run away. I press button A, but instead of running away, I end up turning around. So definitely I'm gonna get killed in my game, right? So in this case, what happens here is that I cannot predict the output. I cannot predict output. I know what the input is, but I cannot predict the output. Well, in the first case, and let's go back to the first game, I could predict the output. So I'm going to say can predict output, right? I can predict the output. Let's look at the third game. I have again a set of inputs. They're again A, B, C, D. And this time I also have a set of outputs, but they're fewer. I have run, jump, shoot. If I press A, my guy runs. If I press B, the guy runs again. If I press C, my guy jumps. And if I press D, he shoots. If I try to play this game, I again will be able to predict what's going to happen because no matter which button I press, I know exactly what action is going to follow. So if I use game control 3, I can predict the output. So the only time when I cannot predict the output is when I use game 2, game control 2. And the reason is because I have this ambiguity. I don't know exactly what is going to happen if I put an input, if I choose an input A. So therefore game 2 is not a function. For a relationship to be a function, not only there has to be a relationship or a match between an input and an output, but the match has to be such that for every input there is one and only one output. So today what we learned is to expand our definition of functions. Function is not just a relationship between an input and an output. Function does not only match an input and an output, but it matches an input and an output so that for every input there is one and only one output. Okay, so now you have an activity you have to complete in your activity guides. Please go to the activity. If you have any questions, feel free to call me over or write me an email. Thanks.